really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here on this truly magnificent Monday's edition of Talk Today, as we invite you to join with us as we have an opportunity to speak with good friends from the Department of Children and Family Services, in particular to Talk Today Youth Services team. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us as we had a chance to talk to the Youth Services Community Development Team at the Department of Children and Family Services, and appreciate the chance to continue this partnership as we not only learn more but get a better insight and understanding of exactly what transpires. So as assembled around the table, at the wise and good counsel of our excellent team members here. Well, Ms. Christine Miller, as sort of the team leader, thank you so much for setting the tone, and I think between all of us will also leave this being inspired to enter the field of social work in particular. So good afternoon specifically initially to you as well, Mom.
A pleasant good afternoon to you and to all our listeners out there. It's certainly a pleasure to come back and spend some more time with you and to inform the public about some of the work that the Department of Children and Family Services is engaged in. In particular, with our team, we work with the youth and in community development to see how best we can enhance lives. So if I could start off by introducing my team. I'll start with Miss Shereen Barnes, Miss Pat Hanlon, Miss Vanda Pori is one of our community development workers, and then we have Miss Belinda Gordon and Mr. David Hunter.
As we call it, the rose amongst the roses.
That's right. That's right.
Don't worry, Mr. Gordon, I got you covered, man. I was just thinking, though, sorry, Mr. Hunt. I was just thinking earlier, when I come down here today now, should I behave because Miss Christine is here, or do I be my normal self? I think Miss Vanda say, you know what, you better behave or Susan will spank you. So, we'll see. But no, but thank you for introducing us, because it's important that we see, not just the team and the caliber, but the commitment and the camaraderie that exists between them.
Certainly. One of the things I would want to start off by saying is, so that you have a better understanding of what it is that we do. We are one of 6 teams in the department. Each team focuses on a specialization, a various age group or category of clients that have particular needs. So we have the family team, the foster care and adoption team, the elderly team. We have MASH, of course, Miss Tiffany. And then you have the youth services and community development. And of course, we cannot forget our sister over in Cayman Brac, Miss Kerry. And because that's a small unit, they do everything that we do, that the entire department. So they do family, youth, community development, all of that.
Wow. I mean, it's one thing that we sort of, as you shared in the past, specialize in, sort of make the team be able to look and focus areas on the BRAC. They still have to practice and do it all, huh?
They do generic social work, yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we look at the team and stuff, perhaps respectful to Ms. Christine, if any of the team members may initially want to have some opening comments, Ms. Pat will lead to you as sort of, the senior elder of the council.
I'm going to take that good.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Very much so. Very much so. Only Ms. Christine, as we shared, if they want to have a couple of initial thoughts as we go through the product. So good afternoon to you, Ms. Park.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. On behalf of our entire department, the Community Services, Community Affairs, and the Department of Children and Family Services, I'd like to say good afternoon to you and to our listening public. And thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure for us to come in and talk about our youth and about our department and about what we're doing in the Cayman Islands. So thank you for having us.
Well, thank you very much. And Mr. David, from that perspective, when we look sometimes at certain roles, and I've always shied away, but I always see that it is so evident, education and community work, social work, we see increasingly, thankfully, more and more men stepping up, being involved, and not just being a part of it, but being front and center. So, as we joked and jested earlier, it's good to see you in the company and
Thank
have
you
that.
very much.
At some point, if you will be inclined, we'll ask you about, not just your role, but what was the impetus, what not just drew you to the profession, but, caused you to remain.
Well, I've always had a desire to work with people. In fact, this is not my first job working with people.
Mm-hmm.
I was a school teacher at one point, and it's like a transition from being a teacher into now being a social worker. And it's all about working with not just people, but specifically the youth. Mm-hmm. And in my case, I find myself working a lot with boys, because we find oftentimes many of the families are only managed by the women alone, single parents, and oftentimes it's single mothers. So I see myself playing that of filling that role of the father and to help to guide the youths of the Cayman Islands.
Well, I noticed one of the things that Ms. Christine was sharing earlier, we'll get to for those listening, the idea that as parents, whether they're two in a household, whether it's one, whether that's a male or, the mother or the father, the role that parents play. But from that perspective, when we look starting out of the role of the youth services or the community development team within the DCFS, what is that?
Well, what we actually do is we provide support mainly to the youth court. Mm-hmm. So we have youth liaison officers. Mm-hmm. And so the court will request from us various services for doing investigations, for court reports that will inform them better as to what exactly has happened with this matter and how to proceed. So we are court liaison officers for the youth court, but we also work along with the schools to monitor youngsters who are presenting various antisocial or at-risk, delinquent behaviors. We also supervise youth on court orders. We also ensure that the youngsters, based on their assessment and needs, that they receive the various services that they require, and we are also engaged in mediation. Mm-hmm. So we tend to refer families or individuals to the various other stakeholders, service providers in the community, but sometimes based on the nature of the case, the social workers themselves will take on like aspects of counseling, aspects of mentoring, aspects of the mediation, those sort of things. The whole idea of working with the youth is that we're to befriend them.
Okay. I was thinking as early as we were chatting, the whole notion that the school teacher and the youth worker, the social worker, those sort of, to me, the community heroes, the roles are very similar. The responsibilities are not dissimilar. And at some point, as we look at potential careers, parents are listening, hopefully as we're encouraging our children into education, that the skill sets from the counselor to the mediator to the mentor to that person who's acting as a career guidance and the like, and a lot of skill sets that one would need to be effective in nurturing, guiding, not unlike what you need to be a parent, but there's no handbook for that, apparently.
True. It requires quite a few years of study, but of course you cannot negate the experience of life, because a lot we have to help to teach the youngsters life skills, and it'd be amazing to find that some of them don't cope well because they don't have the appropriate life skills to help them make right decisions or right choices.
This is going to be a group that highly promotes the field of social work. From my opinion, I don't think we see enough of our young people going into the field. I'd love to see more of our young people going into this field of social work. It's a
It's crucial.
It's a field that your rewards are few, but it is something that I think it's a calling. It's not really a profession that you select. I think it's more selects you. But I think if you spend a lot of time in it, the rewards that come with being a social worker is so tremendous. So,
and that's why I hope that you would allow me to help us to talk about somewhat.
yes.
Because as we talk about potential careers, we're always thinking of the contributions that you will make to society, and sometimes you may be guided, your own ambitions included, to those that we seem as being more financially lucrative. But this can still be very lucrative in many respects. So
And
we'll chat about that.
And impactful.
And most impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And I must add that I must advocate for the men. I really would like to see more men, more male going into this field, because it's, as you stated earlier, that it's lucrative. It's a way of making a contribution to the development of the nation, any nation for that fact. Cayman Island just being one of them. But men, we just can't, as Ms. Christine mentioned earlier, about negating the fact that for character development, we need men to help to guide the youngsters. Women can't do it alone. Because there are only some things that women will share and can help young men with. But man to man, a father with a son is completely different.
Indeed.
And I'd like to add, as they would refer to me as a young Caymanian in the department, I think it's a very rewarding position. Growing up in the island and then, developing your skill set, getting your education, and coming back home and coming into this field, I think that you're able to relate to them. You're able to see what's needs to be put in place, what needs to work on. And I look forward to being a part of social services and making a difference. And with a wonderful team and a wonderful department, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to work with our youth and implement different programs.
All right. Well, I certainly want to hear that, because that's what we need to be looking at as we talk about building our nation. So when we come back, we'll talk about it. Maybe whether that discussion, there has to be the discussion relative to the delinquency and truancy and all other things. But we'll also focus on the positive as well. All right. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
My good friend Ray, are you ready?
Yeah, not ready for the good friend part, but yes, sir, we're ready for another See What Saying.
See what I say?
This time it's Mr. William Farrington, better known as Mr. Willie Farrington to us. He's one of the national heroes, and he's also a road.
Willie Farrington Drive.
Willie Farrington Drive, yeah. The Honorable National Hero, Willie Farrington.
See What I'm Saying is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
So yeah, another character for See What I'm Saying. This Friday, come join us, Mr. Willie Farrington. More than just a road.
See what I say?
See what I say?
I don't know when it is. It's 12:15 to 2:30.
Proudly sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974.
Summertime is when Cayman Airways full of people are travel to Jamaica. If you're late for checking your flight, you will lose your seat. Remember now, check-in time for Cayman Airways flight is 2 hours before departure. Make sure you're not late.
There are plenty of reasons to be a Logic customer. There's lightning-fast internet connectivity. There's the great overall customer experience. And now, you can improve your Wi-Fi connectivity with Logic Boost Wi-Fi for free. With Boost, you can extend your freedom to stream, game, and download seamlessly anywhere in your home, like your patio or your underground lair if you have one. Sign up now for any Logic Bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
Headlines. With the latest headlines. All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
JN Money Transfer, in association with Roma United Sports Club, present the official Jamaica Independence celebrations on Friday, August 2nd. Daytime activities take place on Cardinal Avenue from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. with the best Jamaican food, arts and craft display, free sampling, and free health checks. Don't miss the free lunch hour concert, plus lots of prizes and giveaways. Nighttime concert over at Crown Square on Eastern Avenue, featuring international reggae and dancehall superstar Wayne Marshall, alongside Paul Train, Dream Chasers dancers, plus lots of local performers. Come participate in the Kids Talent Contest, Best Dress Competition, Dance Contest, and Hot Wings Eating Contest. Music by DJ Marcus. Come out early to win a 40-inch TV, plus lots of giveaways and prizes. Admission is free. Sponsored by Popeyes, Best Dressed Chicken, Magnum, People's Choice Grocery, Superior Auto, Ideas Marketing, Kmart Hair and Beauty Supply, Danny's Auto, Breeze FM, and Radio Cayman.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us, and to all of our guests here. But if they allow me to say a special thanks to Miss Christine. Miss Christine, from the perspective of leading the team here, and the notion that our youth have to be a special point of focus now, as the Department of Children and Family Services have sort of positioned themselves. It was reflective of our growing community, not just the increased population, but the fact of the increased demands of the population on the services within the country. So we're looking at youth services and to you and your team, thanks very much. Mr. David, I'm glad you're sitting in good company, man.
Thank you very much, sir.
You at the end of the day,
I'm in this company every day.
Yeah.
5 days per week.
I can feel it. All right. I'm so excited I might get lost at a point, but before I do, as you go to the table, any initial or any other thoughts we want to ask and add before I was asking about the whole idea of youth delinquency and the like, and potentially this community, what are some of the things that may be now rearing its head relative to the emergence of it? How does that relate to perhaps what may have been that sort of delinquent behavior a generation ago? Perhaps even pre and post I-1, are there differences, and sadly to what extent the statistical tracking has been able to help us in other jurisdictions to look at certain things that maybe going forward we could be looking at here as well.
Well, let me just say, I think my team members can speak to, like Ms. Shereen can speak to our stats and so on, because she is delegated with that responsibility. But we're talking about some of the things we noticed before. While some things remain, there's always the concern about our youth being involved in drug use, in the antisocial behaviors that could lead to them getting involved with the law and appearing before the youth court. We are still seeing some of those, some of the behaviors of driving without license and so on. And I think I could easily say that is a typical youth behavior, because we know what are some of the things that adolescents would want to get into, their sense of adventure and, at one point wanting to say, I am growing up, and wanting to be an adult and do the things that adults do. So we're seeing some of the behaviors from before. I know at one point there were serious concerns about some of the quote-unquote, what people would say, gang behaviors. And there was a time when we were having a lot of issues in respect of that. That has died down, thankfully, to a great extent. We're seeing different behaviors now. But I think our main concern that we're seeing appearing in terms of the referrals, whether from schools, from the police, or in court, are mainly drug-related behaviors, or behaviors of, as I said, driving without a license, those sort of things. I'll turn over to Ms. Shereen, though, who can speak more specifically on that.
Ms. Barnes.
Hi, thank you for having us. Just to say that the youth services team, our target group is age 13 to 17. And as we all know, that is a very difficult time for a lot of people, because it's a transitional period. You're not a child, but you're not an adult. So a lot of experimenting take place, a lot of risk-taking behaviors, and some of them end up breaking the law. So that's when they might come into contact with us. Last year, our statistics, based on what we collected from the youth court, we had about 70 young persons before the court for the year, which, if you're looking at a larger country, that's not a lot. But in Cayman, it might seem more than we need. So the majority of the offenders had related to drugs. So it's really smoking marijuana, possessing marijuana. So it's possession and consumption. Those are like 50% of what we saw in court. So we are looking at with our new focus on youth diversion and youth work, looking at addressing that, focusing some energy on that area of drug use. The other area, as Ms. Christine said, was traffic. There was also other things like burglary and theft and some other things like assault and those type of things that the young people engage in. This year so far, our statistics is showing I don't know if there's going to be an increase, but we're halfway in the year, and we just have around 35 young persons before the court. And just to say that the majority are males, we have some females, and the age group seems to be around 15 to 16 that we're seeing the most concerning behaviors.
Recognizing that and looking at this whole notion, as you said, 70. Okay, a couple of things when I was looking at some of the information that was available publicly. And I was concerned with respect, Ms. Christine, and through you to your team, maybe just ask the question. Let's just make it easy. Say our population is 100,000 and we do per capita 70, of 100,000, even for 50,000. Some would say, oh, geez, that's 70. I mean, I got more people in the backseat of my car. They'd look at it as a small amount. Is it then that potentially, as a society, when we look at the relatively small numbers of things that happen, we may say, well, that's insignificant statistically. It's not really a big deal. We don't really worry about it as a society, not as the individuals, not as your team, but as a society. So if that's the case, do we get the priority? Do we get the resources? Or is one too many, as we see it?
No, but even one life is important.
One is too many, yeah.
Yes, even one life is important. And you're talking about 70 Caymanian children who need to be on a path where they can lead a successful life when they age.
And you're talking also about the impact of those children on other children.
Right.
And we are, as we said earlier, we are a very small island. We are a small country. So that number is a large amount.
Right.
Yes,
So
just one more thing. Just think about it. Crime affects the community.
All of us. Yeah.
It affects all of us.
Yeah.
So we're talking about community safety as well.
And the reason why I ask that is that, like you, I believe that one is too many, right? But I'm wondering sometimes, as a society, and I'll answer another question in a bit, hopeful that we will be mindful that one is too many. Not because that one may be me or you or one of us, but one and the impact that one has on the many. And sometimes in the recent past we talk about the throwaway society. We wonder about the approach that society may have on this whole issue.
Well, we certainly must be aware of that because, like I said, 70 is a large number, and we cannot fall into the trap of comparing numbers with other jurisdictions. We must look at what does that number impact our society in the Cayman Islands. What does that number mean to us? And that's a large number for us.
Yeah. And I must add here that it has a multiplying effect, and we have to look at that because one person, of course, can influence others. In addition to that, not just the individual, but the families that are affected by this. Yeah. Let's say you have someone goes out with a gun and shoot and kill somebody. You're talking about the children, the victim, the neighbors, the church members, all persons who this will have some impact on.
And I ask that again to not only spur the discussion here, but outside as we listen, not just amongst our politicians and our teachers, but our homes within our people. In the mornings when we assemble to have coffee or tea or whatever it is, maybe in evenings when we have the barbecue, that we look at this. And I ask that, if I may be so mindful to ask as well, the sort of changing societal norms that we may be developing. You speak of the issue with the gun, but what about the issue with the unlicensed car? Yes. The insurance, the unlicensed driver taking that car. Is our society, as the adults, mindful that our behaviours, we out driving, knowing that without license, the car isn't licensed, without driver license, it isn't insured, and we're okay with it because it's no big deal. Our young people are seeing that and perhaps copying that behavior before the courts. The next thing you know, they're maybe part of the recidivism.
Exactly. It still takes the whole village to raise a child. And that village consists of not only the parent, but the community, the school, the church, our employers, our society as a whole. So we must look at the individual impact and the ripple effect that these things have, because they do impact. They have that ripple effect comes in those various areas that are impacted.
But even in school, the one child that's disrupting the class disrupts the education of all the other children, and that happens a lot. So that's also a way of measuring it, saying that our numbers are small, however, the impact can be great.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if I should add, just to look at it, Pat spoke about us, being a village that we need to be caring and supporting each other and families and so on. One of the things we have been looking at, and it was at this recent discussion, is to what causes delinquency. And so we looked at a number of different things. It is certainly parenting, because we looked at learning theory, that children learn, social learning theory, children learn based on what they see, and they want to emulate their parents, or whether it's on movies or whatever else. So, and I have always said, I think I've said this to you before, and it is my mantra, I stick by it, parents, the home is the first agents of socialization. So as a baby grows up, he's hearing the parents or the adults in the home speak, he's seeing the behaviors, and he's going to emulate that because he feels that it is okay.
Right. Back to that's what I was asking with the societal norms. Are we taking on board what I believe is your sort of credo, that one person, if it was only one, that one is too many. I'm fearful that in our society, too many of us, perhaps even in the media, are willing to say, well, you know what, that's just them, and we'll add some sort of qualifier to it as if it's okay. Yeah. I also would ask then, from the perspective of the societal influences, to what extent do we think and would be pointing to external factors as the blame, as opposed to looking internally to the home? How is the home affected? How is the wider community? And being too quick to blame and be dismissive of what happens here and blame, the TV, the radio talk show, what have you.
But there's a lot of quote-unquote blame to go around. And I think, kids are not born with these little manuals that tell us what to do. And parenting is an ongoing process. As a parent myself, I know that there are challenges. But that is the fact in which that we say that parenting, raising this child, is a village. It is the responsibility of the village. I mean, parents do not have all of us have made errors as parents, look back at things that we would have done differently. But it is being able to reach out outside of ourselves. We don't have all the skills as parents, but being able to reach out to the resources that we do have on island, reach out to our churches, reach out to our community, to our extended family members, and in fact, pulling everyone on board to raise our children and the community at large.
All right, well, let's pull on that after this short break and maybe get the public to understand the importance of, what we do as parents, as that community model for our young people. All right, stay tuned, please, for now.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Wow, it seems I buy a battery every year.
Oh, for real? You should buy your car battery from Vampman. Their batteries are tough. I have a 3-year warranty on mine.
Oh, I know that trick. I take it back and they charge me a percentage of the price.
Hear me out, bro. Not at Vamp Bobo. You can get a 3-year full warranty, no charge. And if they install it at Vamp, it includes free towing and jumping service. And let me tell you, you will never have to get your hands dirty changing no battery.
Get Motorcraft Max or Plus battery for 20% off when it's installed by the service department at Vamp Motors on Walker's Road. Now that's a deal you can get charged up about. Vamp Motors, keeping you on the road.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Puritan Cleaners.
Meet the world with Puritan professional launderers and dry cleaners. Call 949-7104 for opening hours at Puritan's Countryside Savannah, Elgin Avenue besides Off the Peg, and 337 Eastern Avenue. Drive through, rain or shine. Ask about Puritan's ongoing discounts, plus free pickup and delivery. Call 949-7104. Puritan's 949-7104.
Always separate debris from household garbage after a hurricane hits. Debris includes roofing materials, downed tree branches, and metals. All items of debris must be placed in separate piles to the front of the property or at a side that is easily accessible to collection trucks. Debris must be placed in a location that will not cause obstruction to roadways or come in contact with electrical lines. For more post-hurricane waste management tips, visit the DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. And as we have a chance to continue the discussion with our good friends from the Department of Children and Family Services, in particular the Youth Services team, we go around the table, and you recognize some of the names, very, very familiar, from, as I look at them, thinking, it's almost like the who's who came on. We got the Barnes, the Power Hanlon, we got the Power, we got the Gordon. The hunter-gatherer, but that's the hunt. Of course, it wouldn't be a day if you didn't have a Miller present, right? So I was just thinking of that. I get a smile. That's good. This sort of discussion can be overwhelming, and it can be frustrating. It can cause you sometimes to feel so weighted down. And for me, especially when you think of our youth, and to wonder sometimes how they feel. I think, as you shared earlier, 13 to 17. An interesting age. You're not quite that, but you're definitely not considered this. Ms. Christine, if you'd allow me to sort of be as mindful and as respectful of your team, to ask through you, this notion that in the Cayman context, there are so many different ages of, I'll use the word consent, age of culpability if you went before the courts for a certain thing. A certain age if you wanted to drive a license, a certain age if you wanted to, all these different potential ages of maybe consent, authorization, as it were. Does that affect some of the workings and the behaviors and outcomes and make it maybe a little bit more challenging for all and sundry, including the youth? What do you think? How does those ages play in?
Well, I don't think that's unique to us. I don't think that's unique to the Cayman Islands. Different ages of consent for different things. In most countries, the age for buying alcohol is 21. Mm-hmm. I think it's the same here.
18?
It's 18 years, so that's even better. Some
worse.
Countries is 21.
Uh-huh.
So some people, in most countries, 18 is the age for voting.
Mm-hmm.
And for youth justice law, I think 17 is the age that they're thinking that you're mature enough now, so they try you as an adult. But I think it depends on when the offense is committed, and it's sometimes up to the discretion. It can be up to the discretion of the arresting officer. And then the other topic, 16, is when... for the other topic.
But even the other countries is 18.
Yes. No, well, I think most countries is 16.
No, a number of countries include 18 as well. I've seen a number, unless
18 of the age of consent for
sexual consent. A number of countries, 18. And then,
I think that in the Caribbean is 16.
It is 16.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, just little things that we look at, and does it make it that much more difficult for that young person to, well, you were this, you were that.
Yeah, it can offer some sort of uncertainty. Well, if I'm old enough to consent for adult activities, how is it that I'm not old enough to vote? So there is but it's just like navigating. That's what the law says, so we have to go according to the law in that particular time.
Ms. Pat?
Well, our young people, we're talking about the issues that we see through the judicial system, but we also are faced with other issues that our young people that are general and common with that age group, things of sex and sexuality, peer pressure, bullying, parenting, depression, suicide. These are all different things that our young people in that age group also have issues with. So while it's the judicial and them doing things wrong or anti, behavior, there are other issues that are common in that age group that we work with as well.
Christine? When we look at this idea of the youth and the young person, I think it's a great age. Any age you are in your life is a great age. But you get to that young person going to high school at some point, selecting potential subjects of interest, maybe being guided by a parent, or you're going to be a teacher, so you need to, or you're going to be this. And then you get to a magical age where you almost, returning whatever that age is, just the expectation of it, as opposed to the notion. And we see the challenges. Is it then that a lot of times we look at some of the truancy and the delinquency and all of the negative things, but what about the positive and the celebratory things that our youth are up to? Is it that we focus more on the negative, on the positive, because of
Well, I don't think so. We recently celebrated Child Month. We saw a lot of talents coming out of our children and young people. The children are very talented. They're focused in a number of areas. It could be sports, it could be music, it could be the arts, and also academics. So we have a lot to be hopeful for. We have a bright future looking for the majority of our children. It's just that some of them will take a longer route to get there, and we have to help them through that period.
I think we have to put that responsibility and call upon the media as well, because, the negative behaviors are sexier and they sell, but we don't focus on as much, unfortunately, when our kids are doing the right thing, when we have Caymanian children doing positive things. I think we need to make an effort to highlight that, and it's a way of encouraging and reinforcing that behavior for others as well.
Look at the Proud of Them campaign. I think it's a good campaign. They're on a billboard. It's for something positive.
3 weeks ago, I was at the Harkwell Theatre, and I saw excellent, what I would consider to be international stars. When you think of somebody like, I'd say, Dequan Smith, who is a musician, that lad could go to Russia, where they play a lot of orchestra music, and shine like any other star.
He was selected. Yeah. He was one of the few children who were selected for an English school also.
Yes, among many others that I saw there.
We have a lot of great talent on our
We see this, right? Is it that because we're looking for the month of May, we celebrate our children? We see this, and I go back to the number 70, for instance, for last year, right? How is it then? And I did appreciate you jumping on that, because we seem to focus in the media, in our society, on the negative, on that thing, and yet it's so much more positive. I mean, Ms. Wanda, you just all right. When you're ready, you jump in.
I think a part of it could be that we expect children to do well. So when they're doing well, we're not going to talk about it. When they're not doing well, it seems to be more sensational. And as Ms. Pat said, that's when it probably have more people paying attention to it.
Okay. The parent, sorry, Ms. Christine.
So I was about to get back to Ms. Vanda to say that as the community worker, it's certain she's based in West Bay, but she is very involved in the community and in a number of different activities and so on. So she could speak to a number of the positive things and that the youth are involved in.
All right, Ms. Vanda Power.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting us again. Yes, our youth are involved heavily in a number of very positive and encouraging activities. There's music. There's sports. Right now we have a lot of our youth who are off to the Island Games, and that's an activity that, you know, they wholly enjoy in academically. You know, there's always the programs at school and in the community. The Rotary put on the scientific project every year. There's music, you know, there are after school programs and so forth, which, you know, help to bring about, you know, talent and so forth in our children. So there's definitely a lot of very positive things that our children are involved in, and that we do like to focus on as much as we like to encourage and enable and support them, you know, even when they're going through their trying times.
So then when we look at all of they have a certain investment and involvement in our communities, then perhaps a couple of things. One, we hear, well, there's really nothing or not enough for youth or youth activities. And then we hear, well, there's all this other thing. So could I ask it in two parts? The second one first. What are some of the things that are leading to the antisocial, the delinquency, that behavior that we're seeing amongst our youth that seems to be taking precedence in our media and the like?
I will ask maybe Mr. Hunter to speak about that. We are embarking on a new program. It is not launched yet. It is a work in progress, but we're all very excited about the potential for this. So I'll ask Mr. Hunter to speak to that.
Yes, my team has decided to launch very soon what is called the Youth Diversion Program. And I must say that this is not novel to the Cayman Islands. It's something that has been tried in many other jurisdictions and have proven to be very successful. So we have decided to adopt it and to try to see if we can use that to help some of these youths and to redirect some of these youths. As it stands, we look at some of the factors that affect youth and have them committing crime. And one such is the cognitive, where we look at how the brain functions. Oftentimes we've discovered that crime starts there, the way they think. And we are trying to apply some of those theories to divert them away from being, well, I don't want to use a negative word of saying criminals, but they will go down that path. We also think of peer influence. That's one of the things that we find many students or many children find themselves being trapped in that whole cocoon, if I might call it that, of allowing others to steer them down the wrong path. And so we have decided to launch this program to see if we can help these youths to get them back on track.
If I should just chip in and say you can see the correlation between those youngsters who are who grow up in a family setting where there are strong values, where the parents are involved, where they're having a meal together regularly, where they're going out to the beach together, they're involved in things, they communicate, they're concerned about each other's welfare. How was your day? How was school? What happened today? You know, they know their children's friends, they know the families and so on. So you can see that most of those children you would see would be role models for their age group, could be peer counselors in their age group, versus those who don't have that sort of substance in their family. And those are the ones who probably, because there's some basic needs are missing, you know, the love and attention not there, the attitudes are more negative. And so that is how that we would come into play, certainly with the youth diversion, to help them to guide them along the path to have more positive outcome, more positive experiences, which will eventually become their own experience.
And we're trying to use less of the punitive approach, where a child is found committing a crime, he's arrested, taken to the remand center, placed before the court, a decision is taken. We are giving them that second chance and maybe a third chance to see if they can make changes before actually being charged and being placed and maybe in a court order. So the program is to work with them, to try to prevent them from going into the formal judicial system and perhaps sometimes being labeled, sometimes being sent from there to a remand center and to a children's home. We want to have them back in their own homes while we work along with them with different programs.
Right. Well, when we come back, can we talk more about the youth diversion program understand, some of the challenges that our youth workers may be facing. We invite you to stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio K-Man. Radio K-Man's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
The start of the 2019 breeding season sees 7 baby blue iguanas hatched at the Trust's breeding facility, the first for the year. National Trust Operation Manager Luke Harding says watching the iguanas hatch was incredible. In international news, the Trump administration today moved to end asylum protections for most Central American migrants in a major escalation of the president's battle to tamp down the number of people crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. According to a new rule published in the Federal Register, asylum seekers who pass through another country first will be ineligible for asylum at the U.S. southern border. The rule is expected to go into effect tomorrow, and it also applies to children who have crossed the border alone. Even though Tropical Depression Barry did not unleash catastrophic flooding in Louisiana, many across the Gulf Coast were urged to take heed of tornado and flash flood warnings as the storm moved north today. Barry was downgraded from a tropical storm on Sunday afternoon, but continued to pose a threat. Much of Louisiana, Mexico, and Mississippi were under flash flood watches, as were parts of Arkansas, eastern Texas, western Tennessee, and southeastern Missouri. Those are your headlines. From Radio K-Man's newsroom, I'm April Cummings.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
You like having options. So, Western Union is giving you another way to send a money transfer around the world with Western Union's direct-to-bank money transfer option. Visit a Western Union agent location and you could start sending money directly to qualifying bank accounts in over 60 countries. Best of all, it's for one flat transfer fee to send any amount direct to a bank account. Visit a Western Union agent location to learn more and start sending money transfers direct to bank accounts today. Western Union.
Western Union also makes money from currency exchange. When choosing a money transmitter, compare fees and exchange rates, which may vary based on a number of factors and are subject to change.
If your business is over here, but your customers are over here, adding more yellow to your business will bring you both right here. With everyone searching yellows, print, online, and mobile app, getting your business noticed is easier than ever. Book your consultation today at findyellow.com.
The Breeze Fusion is back Saturday, November 2nd.
Bigger and better.
Now featuring a 5K walk run and a 10K run for half marathon trainers. Join the fun and help raise funds for the Central Scranton Park and the NCVO. Save the date or register now at CaymanActive.com or at Radio Cayman Studios. Registration is only $15 if registered by September 30th. And all early registrants enter to win a Cayman Airways voucher.
The Breeze Fusion 5K, 10K walk run.
Saturday, November 2nd.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us. And in the studio, a chance to chat now with our good friends at the DCFS, but specifically to look at the youth services team and, under the, we said, the tutelage of Miss Christine Miller. Is that the best way to put it in the spot? The tutelage? Supervision. No, and I share that because I think from what you said at the outset, if there's nothing else that we take away from this discussion, that we're all in this together and stop, looking at things and let them become cliches, but to act sincerely and in a concert to our youth.
Yeah, I also wanted to say during that, while we have focused, or our unit focuses on that age group between 12 and 17, that early intervention is also a key, that some of these behaviors may be detected at a very early age and we ignore them. So it's important that early interventions, early detections, and detections are done at home, in schools, at churches, at youth groups, in our community, that these are addressed, and we don't wait until the problem becomes an issue and the child ends up in court. Because very often we see when we look at families and we do assessments that there were red flags and red flags that have been ignored that have now come back to haunt the family.
Before I ask, so anyone else? All right, so as we were looking at this whole issue, I keep hearing the family, the home, the parents, and just casting my mind with respect to Cameron Brack, just over Grand Cayman, because I drive sometimes from one district to the next and be able to see and sense and you work. Many times as a family, we leave home. Summers, for instance, we've taken the child to some activity, or the child may be expected to be supervised by somebody else, either that we hired or a family member. But in that normal September to July timeline, parents go to work, children go to school, even in that best of environment, there's a lot of disconnect. There's not a lot of interaction between, parent and child.
It's a dangerous. It's a time that a lot of things unfortunately take place.
Right.
A lot of things happen, and we know that children unsupervised can get into a lot of things, So it's important that we are vigilant, that we are aware, and again, it is an approach that is not only taken by the responsibility of the parent, but the community as a whole, our employers, our schools, after programs, the community, the private sector. What are we all doing to ensure that this is a time that is proactive and that, you have more pro-social types of behavior going on rather than not during this particular time?
Response? Sorry.
I just would want to say we're talking a lot about parents and parenting, but just to put this out there, I think it is recognized internationally that parenting is one of the hardest jobs in this world. It is not easy. You have 7 different children, 7 different personalities. It is not easy for the parent to get up, see to the children, get them off to school, prepare their own minds for going to work, having a challenging day at work, coming back and seeing to the children, and then taking care of a spouse if there is a spouse to. So we have to give the kudos out there to the parents, mothers, fathers who are trying. We recognize your job is not an easy one.
I appreciate your share because that notion, Mr. David,
and there's no template, as a matter of fact, to follow.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of modeling from those who seem to do very well with their children and to try the same thing and hope that it works for your children.
And also reaching out to the resources that are on island in Cayman. We have agencies that assist families, the Family Resource Center, the Counseling Center. You have private physicians or private psychologists and psychiatrists who are good with helping families deal with issues, reaching out to the services that are available. Churches. What are you doing to serve your families, community organizations that address parenting needs? So there are resources there, and sometimes as parents we tend to not want to reach out for whatever reason.
Right.
But and sometimes it's easier to put that electronic pacifier in place, which is a computer or
some sort of device.
Yeah. So let's reach out. Let's find the help outside of ourselves.
Well, as we look at Ms. Barnes, bringing you into the discussion, perhaps as we look at this whole issue and we think of it from the societal norms or maybe what has become the new normal. The employer has a demand on the employee who is a parent, expectations of when you will be to work, what you're going to do, and when you can and can't leave work and how long you can be away. The other demands on the household, the inability sometimes to manage the time to be able to spend as a family, whether it's just one parent and one child, just those 2 individuals, and the demands on their schedules, even if they're positive and productive and normally engaged, maybe they're communicating electronically because physically it's impossible. But
it comes down to scheduling really for the families, for the parents. So you have to really sit down and just look at your schedule and make some time, make an appointment with your child. Because attention from the parent is the best thing.
Yeah.
It's the best thing. Even half an hour. Even on the weekend, we're spending Saturdays together. What I wanted to come back to was the aim of one of the main goals of our team is to just reduce the number of children we see in court. That's really one of our overall aim. Recently, we underwent a training that was conducted by Dr. Haas. He has a lot of experience in dealing with youths and just overall offending behaviors. He trained us to use this particular tool called the YLS CMI. It's really youth level of service. And what is very interesting about it is that it looked at certain areas in the youth life or areas that might affect the behavior, and then we target those areas that there's the highest risk. So we look at prior involvement with the prior offenses, family circumstances, education and employment, peer relation, substance abuse, leisure recreational, personality and behavior, and attitude and orientation. So there's a scoring system. So in each of these areas, there's a score. And at the end of it, we see where if they score high in family, that means there might be some issues there, and we target that area for providing service. They could score high in peer relations. That means their peers might be influencing them wrongly. It depends on the peers that they hang out with. So we might want to try to get them involved in activities where they can meet other peers. So the aim of our program is to use this tool to determine what services we provide to the youth, and we're really excited about that.
And then the intent would be then that you administer that to sort of your clientele?
Yeah, so every youth that refers to us will have to undergo this assessment.
That would help us create their case plan to work
Right.
with them, get the intervention, and then review it over some time so that we'll be able to see the positive changes that's being made.
If I may, Ms. Christine, perhaps through you'll forgive me for making this imposition if it is such that, as I'm looking at the program you're introducing, I find being able to host a panel like this inspires me. It challenges me to go and read and understand more, and to see, as I've said, our youth, our elderly are most important to our society. What does it say? Show me how to look after the most vulnerable, and I'll tell you how healthy and valuable and worthy your society is. Well, that should be a reflection. If, as we look at a developing society, if as a country we were to say a tool like that, and there are other resources in our captive audiences or our schools, collect the data so that can be fed back and part of the preventative measure. So not just the clientele who come before, the 70, the 700, but the wider populace. And we were able to statistically say that so that we can go in, and would that be a greater position to be able to, over time, use that tool as a resource to sort of forecast the potentialities?
Well, if years ago, the school actually had what they call the at-risk
assessment.
Where, and our department was a part of that, where there was a panel at school, and we would speak with the guidance council and some of the senior teachers and so on. And they would be referring children who they saw presenting various behaviors. So that was meant to be a sort of early intervention sort of thing.
But only for certain clientele that was sort of
Right. And so, yes, the tool that we're hoping to use now will be to look at these children who are presenting these concerns and hopefully divert the behavior so they don't appear before court. I can't speak much about it because I did not read the whole article, but in my research recently, I came across a document that was speaking about diversion within the schools. So that is something that maybe we all can look on. But I will say, though, that with the department looking at this youth diversion program, we're not doing this in isolation.
No.
We have the schools, the police, the community, and all the other stakeholders, the courts involved in this and on board to say, yes, we think this is a good idea at this point in time. So that is what we're hoping to sometime later this year officially launch that program.
Yes, well.
I do hear what you're saying in regards to proper tools to assess behaviors early before it gets to us.
Right.
I think that is definitely something that...
And the statistics, I mean, we collect data on sorts of things. I think back to Mr. David will be sharing the teacher, the role of the teacher, the role of the community worker, the social worker. They're not dissimilar, and the challenge that they face. And then you call the parent. Is the parent available? Is the parent equipped to say, well, let me sit down with you, because the parent may be defiant. The parent may have been a product prior, and now the child is just emulating what's in the environment. Your role, this is why I respect what you do so much more.
And to bring Miss Vanda in again and her role within the community, this is where Miss Vanda, who works with grassroots Caymanians in the communities, but she's also the eyes and ears of seeing what goes on, and can come to us and say, you know, I observe certain things happening within the community or within a family and so on, so we can do the early interventions.
Well, maybe speaking to that role of the community development officer and that support, you're the eyes and ears, as Christine shared, the notion that maybe more of us, although we may not necessarily be, you know, official community development officers, you know, we are the eyes and ears of the wider community. So, Ms. Wanda, from that role as a CDO.
Yeah, definitely we are a part of the eyes and ears of the wider community. An integral role to enabling that, you know, we do an effective job reaching out to persons in the community, connecting with you know, our CIPS, you know, with our social workers, contacting families and seeing the dynamics of some of the, you know, family structures and how we can, you know, develop relationships with them, pointing them and encouraging them, you know, into using some of the other resources that we have in our community. You know, the Family Resource Centre do have such a wide and dynamic, varied programs, you know, catering to parents and to our young people's needs and so forth. We ourselves, even in Child's Month, you know, we target our programs specifically, you know, to cater to the needs, the dynamic needs, you know, of our community and our young people.
Now, with that, as we look at the age 13 to 17, and you referenced earlier the offences before the courts, you know, the traffic offences, the drugs offences, you know, consumption mostly. What other offences are we seeing before the courts? And in particular, if there's a more serious offence, if the youth legally as a youth but is being charged as an adult, would that still fall within your remit, or would it be a case now that the courts have determined you did this crime, you're culpable as an adult, so therefore you'll be treated as such, and whatever sort of court assistance is provided separate and apart?
Well, if the offence is committed when the young person is 17, it's going to go before the summary court.
Right.
If at all the offence is committed before age 17, we'll work with that person. Even after reaching the age of 17, we work until that person reaches 18.
And then, of course, the based on the outcome of that, the case can be transferred to Department of Community Rehabilitation.
Right. So, like in some jurisdictions where let's say it's an offence against a person, maybe it's resulting in death of another. They have an age of culpability, even as early as 10, sometimes earlier.
Yeah, 8.
So are we looking, even if that person is at that age, we still see them as a young person from the perspective of what may be available through youth services or others?
Right.
Well, I think a lot of it will depend on the circumstances and the factors of the case. A lot of it will. Sometimes you have a young person committing an offence with an adult, and then because they're joined together, they ended up all of them going to the summary court or even the grand court. It really depends on the circumstances of the case and the offence.
Because if it's a serious case like, say, possession of a firearm, by all means, that's going to go before the grand court. It's going to go through the summary court and it's going to end up in the grand court. Oftentimes, there's not much we can do with that person because that such a person will be remanded and maybe held at Northwood.
Now, with that in mind, then, and it may not be a question that we can answer now, but it's just a question that I was thinking of earlier, sort of, if you don't mind, Ms. Christine, thinking back to some of the comments you shared with us in the past, inspiring us to think of how do we protect and provide for our youth? How do we make sure that as a society we're setting that example. Potentially, could these sort of circumstances present even greater challenges for the work that you do? The courts have determined, for argument's sake, that because of the nature of this offence and the circumstances, therefore, this young person, this age, is therefore going to be treated as such. The way our laws look at different things without taking away the responsibility for our actions. Are we making it more difficult for us to respond and be effective in some of the solutions?
I think so far we've had some really good youth court judges who really work with the young person and really try to steer them in a direction that they're going to change and do not come back to court. So they give them a lot of opportunities to improve. They encourage them. They have the matter reviewed in court. So we have a review system where when they do come back to court, they want to have a good report. So they tend to improve their behavior. So I think our youth court is very good with the youth. And even though they're in court, sometimes they're in there for one-time offense. They treat them well, I believe, in my estimation. They give them chances. They give them opportunity. They say, you made a mistake. We want you to know you make a mistake. You have to face the consequences of making such a mistake. However, you're going to move on with your life and you're going to do better. Yeah. So I think that the youth court has been good with them.
Yeah, our youth certainly have an opportunity to be served well in Cayman. We have, a judicial system that is very good.
And we've seen some public reported success with respect to even the drugs court as to the offender. And I share that knowing that if, as a community, if we recognize that, celebrate that, and focus on the positive, we'll be able, or should be able to, address the cases, even if there are 1,000. We're talking less than 100 in this instance. Yeah, we should be able to.
Yeah, I think in terms of our judicial system, and I think, as I said earlier, we all, different entities have a role to play in the well-being of our young people. The private sector, the judicial system, families, the schools, the various entities. We all play a role.
So from that, then, can I ask maybe two things? First, the notion of any other challenges that you may face, and then secondly, perhaps some of the interventions that we could deploy, either through your programming, but even as a community, not just the parents, but the employers, the schools, the churches. But first, any particular challenges that may prove to be particular impediment to your work?
Quality time. We cannot, quantity of time and quality of time, but you have to have some quantity to give some quality. So from a parenting perspective, what is your time with your child? How much time? And from an employer, is that conducive? Is it conducive for this parent to do that? And are we making a means by which, family can have more quality and family time? So it's the various areas in which we what are we doing to contribute to the well-being of this young person?
Well, social work is a professional application of self. So we have to, as Ms. Christie said, befriend. We have to form such a close relationship with the client, and that's how we're really going to see any changes or any lasting changes. So we would need probably a larger team if we're going to be able to have a social worker spending the amount of time we would need with one client.
And we have to bear in mind, too, that whatever we do, we have to write. So there's never a time, we're almost like journalists. There's never a time when you can relax and say, I'm not in the mood to write today. Yeah. You always have to write.
You have a document.
And at the same time do what the other things that Shireen pointed out.
Yeah, we certainly, I think. And it depends on, once we launch this program, what the numbers look like, the youth that are being diverted to our program, what that looks like. Because it is imperative that for the success of that the social workers are able to spend that quality time. They must invest the time to have that one-on-one. It's not only building the relationship, it is through that relationship that the youth will develop trust, that they will open up and work together, and so we will see the positive behaviors. I just wanted to share a quote I picked up. I'm big on quotes. And this is from Franklin D. Roosevelt. He said, we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. And I think that is what we aim to do.
Yeah, I think what he also said too was, if you educate a man in mind, but not in morals, you educate a menace to society or something else. It was him that said, back to that whole notion.
But regardless of what types of programs we implement, we must have the support and the buy-in of the families and the community as a whole. We can only do so much. We can implement so many programs, but we have to have the buy-in and the support of the other entities that are involved.
Right. We're very enthusiastic that this program will work, because we are actually looking at other jurisdictions that have formed like the forerunners. For example, in Canada, there's a publishing house known as John Howard Society out of Ontario. And they write a lot about crime and justice issues. And they pointed out, and I'm going to state something that they wrote here. It said, prior to introduction of the youth diversion program, Canada had the dubious honor of having the highest rate of incarcerated youth in the Western industrialized world. And with the introduction of this program in 2009, they saw a reduction of 20%. I must also mention that in the training that we had with Dr. Haas, he's from Virginia, he pointed out that the harsh approach of, you might have heard of this program called Scare Them Straight.
Mm-hmm.
They have diverted from the Scare Them Straight program and using the more subtle approach. Because what he mentioned was that oftentimes when you take these youths to the prisons to see these rough guys, and you think that they would deter them. As a matter of fact, they want to become like these tough guys. So we are moving away from that harsh approach and to use a subtler approach.
Yes, because what we're aimed at is not changing the behavior; it's changing the thinking,
the attitude,
right?
And that changes the behavior eventually.
And this is where I think sometimes when we look at statistical analysis and surveys, and I look at NDC's survey with respect to drug use. If we look at that, if we see that, it's plausible, it's scientific, and it's saying, for instance, that at this age, a child may be exposed to this thing, whether that drug is cigarette or some alcoholic beverage or some other drug. Once we acknowledge that it's a drug, and then supposedly, if that drug is available in our home, what are we doing to correct it if we don't have the information?
That's a difficult one, because there's the attitude that marijuana is a herb. And it's trendy and it's popular, and some of these young people smoke it because it's popular. Oh, and they think they're cool when they're smoking it. But what I often say to the young people I deal with, it's illegal. It's illegal. And then they will say to me, well, alcohol is not good for you, and it's legal. So I say, well, I can't really go into that. What I know is that marijuana is illegal, and it also does something to a young person's brain. So I would advise you not to smoke it. But it's difficult because the peers think it's cool, they think it's cool, and to me, a lot of them smoke it because of the peer influence.
Right. Societal influence, maybe things.
And the culture, popular culture.
Yes, and want to be. You want to be like your friends. So if I don't do it, then I might be ostracized. So let me do it to be one of them.
The notion of
the peril of being
now,
incarcerated.
Becoming popular, the idea. And I appreciate what you're sharing in that if we were to start looking at these things from that perspective, and maybe a program that we've seen, at least I think, having some great success, towards Tobacco 21, where they're raising the legal age to smoke to 21, and the economic as well as the medical benefits of introducing this. Is there something that we look at? This is just part and parcel of that information. Ms. Christine, we have to have a part 2 at some point. If you would bring your team back, and if we as a country would be willing to listen to some of the things you share as we roll out the program, as we look at other things, because it is our youth, our children, our children's friends who are being affected by it. I know you have other things to engage in, Ms. Christine. You're welcome to a few more minutes extra, but if you need to go now, you can have your team say their parting words and we can call it a day. What do you want?
Well, I just want to say thank you for having us and for the invitation. I think later this year when we roll this program out, we would certainly like to come back to talk about the program. One of the things we aim to do is to move into the districts to talk about it, so we are sensitizing the people in the communities about what this means and to encourage them to work along with us so that this can be a success for their children, for the community, for Cayman.
Indeed.
That aside, I'll leave it open to the others if they want to share anything? I just want to say, use the opportunity to thank all the other service providers in the community because we work in partnership with them. We couldn't do it alone, and so we're appreciative of all the support that we receive from them as well.
All right.
And I'd like to add to Ms. Christine, we would encourage the charities or various organizations in the community to reach out to us and give us support. We're open to the those individuals or our companies over time to build that relationship that is not within our relationship team right now.
All right.
The caring and responsibility of our children, our most vulnerable in our society, is the responsibility of all of us as parents, as the church, as the community, as employers, and it's up to us to ensure that our children are doing well.
I look forward to our success under the leadership of Ms. Paulinda Mendoza-Williams and all the different teams in the department. We are working hard at doing great things and helping the Cayman community.
I certainly appreciate it. And the invitation is there. So, Mr. David, to you.
Yes, this is an excellent program that we intend to launch, and we are expecting that it will bring us fruit, and that Cayman in general will benefit from all the things, the work we intend to put in.
Ms. Wanda.
As Community Development Officer, we do look forward to continuing to build the interagency relationships within the community and extending also to other resources and persons and organizations with our communities to partnership with us. You know, we're all about ensuring that we have a healthy and vibrant community, and we're definitely looking forward to continuing and building on these partnerships.
There you go. All right, well, you guys enjoy your week. May be safe as well as successful. To our listeners, when we come back, more Talk Today.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Summertime is when Cayman Airways full of people are travel to Jamaica. If you're late for checking your flight, you will lose your seat. Remember now, check-in time for Cayman Airways flight is 2 hours before departure. Make sure you're not late.
Traffic congestion is bad for your mental health, bad for your wallet, and bad for the environment. Alternative commuting habits are the solution. Cycling, walking, busing, or carpooling will help save you money, benefit your health, conserve energy, and help the environment. Do your part. Visit the Ministry Facebook page for details of plans for bicycle lanes, the latest bus schedules, and be an energy advocate.
My good friend Ray, are you ready? Yeah, not ready for the good friend part, but yes, sir, we're ready for another Siwa Saying.
Siwa Saying.
This time it's Mr. William Farrington, better known as Mr. Willie Farrington to us. He's one of the national heroes, and he's also a road.
Willie Farrington Drive.
Willie Farrington Drive, yeah. The Honorable National Hero, Willie Farrington.
Siwa Saying is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
So yeah, another character for Siwa Saying. This Friday, come join us, Mr. Willie Farrington. More than just a road.
Siwa Saying.
Siwa Saying. I don't know when it is. It's 12:15 to 2:30.
Proudly sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974.
The Cayman Islands Seafarers Association wishes to inform all members that there will be a general meeting on Tuesday, 16th July at 7:30 p.m. in the Seafarers Hall, 11 Victory Avenue, Prospect. There will be 3 buses from West Bay Town Hall, which leaves at 6 p.m. The Barnes bus route in Georgetown leaves the public library parking area at 6:45 p.m., stopping at the Cayman Compass Building and the Airport Fosters. The bus marked Bobo is $1 public transport and is blue in color. Pickups are from British Caymanian, Uncle Bill's, Walkers Road, Shedden Road and Crew Road. The bus from East End. Pickups are at the school parking lot, the gas station and the Wreck of the 10 Sails starting at 5:45. North side pickups are at Chisholm Store and the soccer field starting at 6:15. The Boddentown pickups is at Lorna's gas station at 6:45 and the Savannah pickups is at the gas station at 7 p.m.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us, and it was really an honor to have a chance to chat with the good friends from the Youth Services team over at the Department of Children and Family Services. And thanks especially to Ms. Christine Miller for bringing her team and having a chance to share with us. As they've shared, our youth are very, very important to us, and I'm hopeful that as we listen to what they shared, that we don't leave thinking that, it's only a small number, it's only them. And whatever that means to some of us that may hear it or may see it, we would all believe that one, is one too many. And what if it was, us or someone that we really loved and cared about? Would we want them to be looked after? So, as we have some open line now, we invite you to call and share your thoughts with us, 949-8037, 949-6990. Or you can send us your thoughts on our WhatsApp, 925-3261. Invite you to share with us as you so choose. And recognizing that there is, without question, an opportunity before the country to make some very, very impactful decisions. I had a chance to chat with a couple of individuals earlier who were asking the question, when we were making decisions about the country, why is it that it seems that we always seem to leave it to either the politician, and then we make allegations that the politician is influenced by, and I'll use it this way, not to the extent that how it was said, but to the business community, who seem to influence the politicians that this development project in this area is the best for the country, and that we leave it for other people. Where are we, the wider country, sort of citizens, and our opinions, our perspective? Why aren't we sufficiently organized? Why is it that we wait? And they give a couple of instances where there were general elections, and the only people that didn't realize that there was going to be a change were seemingly some of the incumbents. But everybody else knew that, for the most part, after this general election, lucky if this one kept his seat or if this one didn't get in. Now, is that the norm today? One of the people sharing a perspective indicated that sadly now we're not just being influenced by other things, we're deliberately, maliciously and very, directly trying to influence certain outcomes by sharing disinformation to persuade people to have a particular perspective. And they gave us an example. What if we were doing that with respect to the dock? What if the information that we were receiving relative to other government projects weren't being shared in a timely manner? And they gave us an example, the notion of the schools projects. Now, presumably, the schools could have been approaching an expenditure of near $300 million. The yet to be completed project, and then the recent expenditure on the gymnasium, 10, 20 million, whatever the sum that has been alleged. How are we ensuring that we're investing in our country and its future, and where is the public and its demands for, the best outcomes from those who are entrusted. Now, one of the sort of people in the, as I put it, the round table, were of the view that we seem to make it very, very difficult for those that we elect. On one hand, we sometimes don't give them sufficient leeway to do their jobs. Other times, we don't share timely, pertinent information. And then when there's a failure or a slight slip, we're quick to pounce, and without giving them a chance to make corrective sort of maneuvers or to try to fix the situation. And yet there are other times where seemingly same behavior is repeated with the same bad outcome, but we do little or nothing about it. And he put forward the view that it all comes from our inability to look at things objectively. So as a result, he suggested a few things that we would like to share with you. At his sort of, acquiescence and almost insistence, he says, we're going to a general election in 2 years. Now, there's even limited but still some discussion as to, why is it that we were so accepting that it should have been changed to begin with. Yes, there was the hurricane, but could we not have had the hurricane and the elections thereafter, or as was presumably agreed, that it would then revert to the normal cycle? Now, he said that may or may not be anything significant now, but again, as we're talking about expected constitutional changes, why are we not looking at the things that are perhaps changed, and could we not change some others? So as an example, we have a ministry that has district administration, but presumably it's only for Cameron-Bragg. Are there not other districts, despite how it's set up? We have the office under Bragg that, as he put forward, at one point was almost like a autonomous office, could be operated to an extent as such. Is there sufficient oversight? But when we look at the other districts, and we now have a Georgetown district manager, should we not have other district managers? Not that we're growing the civil service, but we're trying to devolve and have more autonomy within the respective districts. If as such, could we have more elected positions, so therefore you have a greater sense of voter participation, a greater sense of a democratic input into our society? Would that mean that initially some of the civil servants would be reduced in number? Would they be redeployed? He thinks the latter would be the way to go, simply because you have that expertise and experience, and you use it to serve the country's interests. And maybe the post of district manager isn't one that is elected, but why can't it be? Why can't we have other boards that are elected instead of a central planning authority, one for Grand Cayman and presumably one for the Sister Islands? Why not have one for the country, or have none at all? Are we looking at other areas? Now, as I listened to what he was sharing, I thought some of the things may be a bit provocative. Some of the things may not even be, as he said, probable. But is it because there isn't any will, political or otherwise, to move forward in this direction? Or is it that we're not sufficiently willing to think in a different direction and to ensure? Now, for the politician, is it that the politician would want greater sort of influence and input? Or would the politician want to be more of a manager? Step back, be positioned to formulate policies and make decisions, but not necessarily hands-on, as we're seemingly expecting more and more from those we elect. 949-8037 8037 or 949. Good evening, Susan. What has happened? And it's on a Monday. we're going to pause and take a short break, but when we come back, if I have to hum a few bars or maybe eat a few chocolate bars during the break to get it working, it will be here, and God's willing, you'll share your thoughts with us. 949-8037 or 949-6990. We invite you to call and share your thoughts with us. It's Monday, but what better way to get the week started than by having an opportunity to share with us, what you think. So we want to hear from you. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
What do we love more than summertime? Extra flights between Cayman and Jamaica with Cayman Airways, of course. Cayman Airways has added extra flights weekly for travel between Grand Cayman and Kingston this July and August. Visit family and friends in Jamaica or send for them to visit you in Cayman. But hurry, these extra seats will sell out fast, so book yours today. Remember now, check-in time is 2 hours before departure. Call Cayman Airways reservations on 949-2311. Contact a travel agent or book online at CaymanAirways.com.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes. Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for the 7 a.m. news, brought to you by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037, 949-8037. Or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. Likewise, if you want, share with us over the WhatsApp, 925-3261. You can record a voice note. You can type it up. Text to speech even works, so whichever way, send it across to us. We will happily read it or play it for you as you choose. It is open line here on this wonderful, magnificent, marvelous Monday edition of Talk Today. 949-8037 or toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-TALK. Let's go to our phones. Hey, welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Stolen, good day. How you do?
Excellent. How about yourself?
Too blessed to be stressed.
Too blessed. I like it, man.
Mm-hmm.
BBM, blessed beyond measure, huh?
Mm-hmm. And for another day.
Amen, amen.
You remember what I call you? You remember like about 2 years ago, you had one consulate from Jamaica had come on your show, and he was supposed to come back. They were talking about visas and different stuff like that, but I don't think he was in person on your station. I think you guys were communicating by phone or...
The U.S. consulate you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah. We did have a couple of occasions over the years. We have, again, reached out and asked if it would be possible to have that sort of, point person over there. We fielded some questions, but bureaucracy, it takes a while, so we haven't had a positive response thus far.
Yeah, so you had to keep at it.
Yeah.
Okay, in Cayman, what age would you consider elderly, 60 or 65 or beyond?
We now have formal legislation that defines retirement age, and it's now what elderly person at 65.
Okay, well, why I'm saying that now, Stolen? Why the elderly people still have to go to Jamaica to get a visa on the Cayman passport?
Well, and I hope nobody takes this as an offense, but why is it that we have to go anywhere to get the visa? Why is it,
Amen. True.
We had a plan? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, children under a certain age don't have to go, right?
That is what I understand, yeah.
Yeah, and I said to my sister-in-law who lives in Northside, and she's 80 now, and then she could not to go apply for it and just send it now because she's 80 and she can hardly walk. Okay, when you reach 80 years old, can you go anyway? What good that is to the visa, for the visa to you? Nobody's looking to that to say, well, okay, can you get a consulate, for renewal to come or send the passport to Jamaica to get it renewed. I mean, I could understand a first-time one, but renewal now, you could have just sent it to Jamaica.
Well, I recognize that, seemingly the world has changed significantly since all the ongoings on. But as you were sharing, is it possible that our government, through the UK, somehow arranged to what we used to have way back when, where the staff from the US consulate come here, whether it's once a year, whether it's twice a year, whether it's every quarter, and people can make their applications, do their renewals, get student visas?
You look at that if you check, okay? Airfare back and forth, pay for the visa, pay for courier, pay for hotel, pay for taxi. You're looking at about $1,200 and more US dollars for one person. One girl told me she went in the summer last year. 4 children, three children and her, it cost her $4,000 and change for go to get visa.
And how does that, benefit our economy or our people?
Yeah, the money could be spent in here.
Right. And I don't think that it's only the expense, which is for many of us a significant cost, right? But it's the time away from the family, the time away from work. It's all the other logistics.
To be honest with you, look how much problem there has. Sometimes people don't want to travel and go for visa and stuff because by the time you reach the airport, they're following you and stuff like that.
But it's also, it is a lot of challenges in itself,
If you're trying to protect your elderly, well, do something and try to help get a visa intact for the older people especially. Well,
this is one of those areas where, unfortunately, you ask questions, just even in a casual conversation, and it seems that people are pointing fingers. This one is blaming that one, and it's not this government, it's that government, it's the other thing. But there hasn't been any definitive sort of answer, and has there really been any significant attempt to get it resolved so that the process can occur here?
It's just like everything else. I mean, come on, do something about it. So where the MLAs can do something about it. Okay, in Trinidad, where I come from, but I've been living here from 1975. I vote every time. Okay, so I have right to say, right? In Trinidad now, the people don't have to go. They don't have to go again for visa in person. They just got to send the passport, and as long as it's within 1 year, it hasn't expired. They don't have to go in person again. They just send it.
Well, it needs to be, we understand.
I mean, they're right across the border, young and old.
You're right. Countries want to be able to ensure that they're vetting people who they're giving visas to, fair enough, but there has to be a process by which we should be able to allow that thing to happen here without the expense and inconvenience, and as you said, the concerns that people have otherwise. Well,
I don't call your show all the time, but I say no, I don't want to go to Jamaica to get. And then when you go with a waiver to the States on your Cayman passport, why did you get a visa? Huh?
Yeah.
And that's our only one entry.
So, well, my visa expired and I haven't got it renewed, and there's a good chance that I probably won't go get it renewed otherwise either. It's not the easiest thing to find time to go. It's not the easiest thing to find the couple of $100, $1,000 to go as well. You've got to deal with your issues here. You got to find people to look after your family, take care of your business while you're gone.
Yeah, and you have to go during working time because you have to go like Monday to Friday.
Right.
So why can't they do something and get it sorted out here? People don't mind to pay the courier from here to send it. And what else you have to do? That would be costing less to the elderly too than to have to get a plane fare, vice versa, whatever, and go.
Yeah.
My own expire, and to be honest with you, I get a British one. I went online. I had to go away in Tampa to get my eyes checked, and I do the ESTA online, and you have to do that. But then, why it is we have the Cayman passport too? If we just have to have the British one. You still have to go online. I mean, you don't have to pay much money on your credit or debit card.
But then, as I listen to you too, I'm thinking that for now, and maybe there's a lot more that we don't know. You keep hearing comments. But if the Caymanian citizen is being able to be issued with a waiver, as you said, one time into the U.S. from the Cayman Islands, presumably getting a visa might conceivably not be a great risk if you satisfy all the other requirements. but it's something that we could at least explore whether or not the requisite personnel from the U.S. consulate could come here and process.
And make life easy for everybody.
Mm-hmm. I know.
So I don't understand. I mean, we living in the 20s now. Something I think it's not always it can't be done. If something could be done, that kind of way.
Well, then, by it not happening, despite all of these years that people have asked about it, is it that the politicians, whether those that we elect here, whether those in the UK...
Must you feel bad they have to go to Jamaica to get a visa too?
Yeah, well, some of them, I don't know what to say.
So then one time I went and the sun was hot and I had to stand up in the line 10 years ago, and I said, no, I can't take this no more. I had to stand up in the hot sun outside the line, and the people them line up. You can't even take your bottle of water inside with you to a certain area and stuff like that. That's what you have to go through. I don't know how it is now.
Yeah, well, I hear from different people that the experience and some is better than for others, so not quite sure.
And some people is not well and they have to stand up in the hot sun. Suppose they faint away in the hot sun.
True. But it's also, too, I think, a matter of principle. We're talking about wanting to be a first world country, and we're talking about, changing the name from Legislative Assembly to Parliament and calling the people, members of Parliament.
That's what gave me a bad thing not to go back, because I had to be in the hot sun, stand up in the line, and I had my bottle of water because it was hot, and no, miss, you can't go beyond here with your bottle of water.
Yeah, man. Well, hopefully there's an ear that's listening that is actually willing to see if there's something that can be done, because I think it would be very beneficial for not just our economy, but more importantly, very respectful to the people who live here, not have to, go through that process and physically leave to do so.
I said, you think you could get back the guys and them again too?
I've actually, you'd be surprised. I actually had sent some emails following up on it, and it's...
That's in Jamaica?
Yeah, we just, we had contact through the U.S. consulate there, because presumably that's the one that we would go through, and we made contact through different entities. It's I guess a level of bureaucracy.
So you think the guy might come in person this time, or you guys?
If you were asking me to speculate, you probably won't have anyone attend in person. But we're always optimistic and positive, and so we'll go back out again.
Positive, yes.
Yeah, and ask the question, even if it's no more than having someone on the other end of the phone line willing to maybe share information directly to those who are listening. We will, if that transpires, we certainly will announce it and we will do it. But right now it's not looking very promising, but we keep trying.
Yeah, don't give up.
Nope, can't do that.
You keep trying with the guys and them and see if they can work out something.
Right.
So is it have to be with the government here and the consulate, or them alone can decide?
I've asked unofficially from, and I've got different responses. I'm told at one time it's for the UK because we're not an independent nation, and then I've told by some of the people here that given how some of our politicians like to prance around, it's something that they can do. So I don't know if it's just a case that we got people talking that really don't know the air from the elbow, or whether it's a case that it just shows how disrespectful we are towards Caymanians. We really have no clue,
Yes, so we just have to hang in there and hope for the best and don't give up.
Yes, ma'am.
Think positive, that's all I could say, and then work on it, keep at it.
Yes, ma'am. But I appreciate you taking the lead and sharing, as you said, you may not have been born here, but you've been here, since 75. And if you're a voter, if this is home, I think there's a chance that we need to start speaking out and standing up together, respectfully, but still speaking the truth, right?
Yeah.
So,
something have to be done, because the other Caribbean countries can do things too and get by, and like I say, across the board, they don't have to go in person no more.
Exactly. Well, we will ask again, perhaps initially informally, maybe reach out to one of the different government departments and say, what is this like? They may respond and say, well, that's for the politicians. They may say, no, it's something that is in the works, and who knows, come end of the week, there may be an announcement.
Because look, we got more than, our population is more than 60,000 now, so why can't we get it done?
True. Yeah.
So
Yes, ma'am. All right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
keep at it. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
God bless you. Thank you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, listen, let's let that inspire us. When we come back, you might want to talk about something else. Hey, it's Monday. Still got a lot of days to cover in the week. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
There's the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Labor and Pensions Inspector Angela Maduri is the Chief Officer's choice in the Ministry of Employment and Border Control for May. She received the award for demonstrating excellence in governance practices, contributing to one of the 5 strategic goals outlined in the 5-year strategic plan for world-class civil service. Ms. Maduri is one of the stars in the Department of Labor and Pensions. In international news, the top U.S. diplomat in Geneva says the U.S. will, quote, provide more in the coming months to help respond to the Ebola outbreak, while the European Union ambassador says the bloc will examine possibilities to scale up its response. Mark Kasser told a UN conference on Ebola today that the U.S. is calling on member states to increase their contributions to the response, which the World Health Organization says is underfunded. EU Ambassador Walter Stevens, meantime, noted the bloc has provided some $20 million in support since last year, plus in-kind and logistical support. He says he will look into possibilities to scale up the response. Nearly 1,700 people have died in Congo in the outbreak, and a first case appeared in the eastern city of Goma over the weekend. Guatemala's top court has blocked any move by the country's president to sign a safe third country agreement with the U.S. It's a deal that could complicate efforts by other nationalities to seek asylum in the U.S. A safe third country agreement would mean that people from El Salvador, Honduras, or other nations generally would have to seek asylum in Guatemala if they cross that country rather than in the U.S. Those are your headlines. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, I'm April Cummings.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. It is open line 949-8837, 949-6990. Of course, Flo offers up a toll-free call. Thanks so much for allowing us, whether here on Talk Today, or whether you join us for the record on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. It's the same number, toll-free, 1-800-534-8255. Now to the last caller who was sharing the sentiments that the renewal, but I'll also say about the grant of a U.S. visa. What is your thought? Is that something that you think should and could happen here? We know student visas, likewise. Could our people somehow, there be arrangement for their respective personnel from the U.S., consulate come here and process? I don't know. Let's go to our phones. Welcome, you're on Talk Today. Hey, good afternoon. How you doing, my friend? How was it today?
Okay.
All right, good to hear from you again, man.
Okay. People you had on earlier, are those people involved with the boys' home too?
They're from the Department of Children and Family Services, and so to the best of my knowledge, Keys Foundation are the ones who under which the boys' home fall. Indirectly, I guess they would and should be involved, looking after, but perhaps not in that sense of the day-to-day administration. But I can find out for you specifically what involvement and role, if any, that they would have.
Well, I can say this about the boys' home.
Mm-hmm.
The person they have in charge down there now, that individual has to be replaced. He should have been replaced a long time ago. And not only him, but certain other individuals working there. Because I personally know of physical and mental abuse being there at the boys' home.
If I could ask of you, do you think the cultural ethos of our people would then, let's use your instance as an example, would we be inclined to make a formal report complaint, whatever you would use, to the right people to say, listen, in this instance, I'm aware of this, I would ask that you look into it? Or do we, say what, I don't know, not bother get involved? What would we do?
Well, first of all, you have to be serious, man.
Mm-hmm. True.
And if it takes getting witnesses such as the young boys who might be there and going through the physical and mental abuse, if it takes them going with you as witnesses, for instance, to the Ombudsman office and making these types of reports, I think that would be the best way of going about it. And not only the Ombudsman office, but also in front of a judge.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you allow these individuals to go too far with their physical and mental abuse with these young men, they will develop post-traumatic stress disorder, and you will end up letting them get so frustrated and so resentful that they will do things that would cause them to get in even more problems. And what I noticed about the boys' home at that time, it was like they were provoking them to a certain extent that would allow them to no longer be able to stay at the boys' home. And then from the boys' home, they would be transferred to Northwood Prison. And at Northwood Prison, they keep them in a 12 by 12 building. Mr. Mike Adam broke ground for a juvenile educational prison facility that was recommended by Miss Ramsey Hale, the same lady that developed the drug court, because she said this juvenile education prison facility, from what she knows of those that they have in the United States, it helps the young people. Instead of putting them in a prison, they're put in a juvenile education prison facility that is like a school. And the better that they do in their grades, their sentence or whatever is lessened. And then they're released. And when they're released with certificates. But they're not put in a prison facility such as Northwood Prison as young individuals, 15, 16 years old, as they were doing. And then amongst adult prisoners, which some of them were influencing them or encouraging them into things that weren't right and leading their lives astray.
Mm-hmm. Well, if I can then ask you to go back to the first thing you referenced. If you are aware of the allegations that you put, would you be motivated to write that and make a formal report to the government, to whether it's DCFS, whether you write it to the ministry responsible? Would you do that?
We not do that right now today, because I know what I'm talking about
right.
is the truth and is facts. And Michael Miles, I'm glad he no longer works or has anything to do with those young people, because from personal experience with him, he used to approach those young men right away as bad individuals And that's the worst thing you can do. And by him approaching them in that way, right away, his relationship with them went in the wrong direction.
But I recognize we have different approaches. You take of some coaches, for instance, who, in order in their training to motivate the player, may take one approach, another approach by another coach may be completely the opposite. But in your instance, though, if you prepare to stand by that, then go right ahead. The second thing I was going to ask you, looking at prisons and the practices that we see, for instance, in the U.S., where we have seemingly high incarceration rate, we have high prison costs, a lot of privatized sort of prison institutions. We understand that in Cayman, that is seemingly something similar that we're thinking about pursuing. What is your view on having the prison or prisons being managed by a for-profit entity?
Well, you mean prisons for young people?
Prisons for young people, prisons for women, prisons for adults, just prisons in general. The idea of a prison being privatized, and now you hire some company, and I guess in a sense, simplest form, they get paid $1 a prisoner. So if they get 10 prisoners, they get $10. If they get 100 prisoners, they get $100. So the more prisoners they get, the more money that they would be able to make per prisoner, in a sense. What do you think of having the prison system run that way by a private contractor, as opposed to the present practice now of it being run by the country?
Well, I'm not too sure about that, Dwayne. I don't think Cayman is that large, first of all, to be having to do that, because as we can see, the mess we in now with CUC privatizing our utility company. You see the mess we in with CUC, right?
Well, it's not just, that company, but yeah, the whole issue. So again, if we're thinking about privatizing the prisons, or if we've privatized certain things, we're talking about garbage. We've done it with, in the early days, with electricity, with telecoms, with water, with the others. Are you now saying that the government needs to look more closely at maybe taking an investment, a financial stake in some of these countries, and in these companies, as other countries have done?
Well, Dwayne, we had a prison inspector came here to Cayman about 10 years ago, and he said the West Bay prison, no one should be locked up in that prison because it doesn't have any windows.
That's the police holding area.
Yes, it's very small, and it's so small that it will make people think of committing suicide. He went to Northwood Prison, and he said it was a disgrace to see the prison facility that we had here in the Cayman Islands, especially for a country that, with the finances that we have. And right now in Northwood Prison, Dwayne, those buildings are falling apart. The steel rods inside those buildings are rotting. The cement is rotting. Right now, if Cayman was to have a serious earthquake, a lot of those buildings would probably collapse and probably kill or injure a lot of those prisoners. Right now, if a serious fire was to break out in Northwood, there would probably be a lot of deaths happening in there. And remember now, these people are put in there for a certain amount of time. They're not put in Northwood for a death sentence. And right now, if a serious fire was to break out in Northwood Prison on one of those wings, right now the guard has to open each and every one of those cells with a key.
As opposed to electronically pressing a button and the whole thing opens, huh?
And I know there's not going to be any guard that loves those prisoners so much that he's going to lose his life if the fire is so intense to open all those cells to free all those people from being burnt to death inside Northwood Prison. And it would be a terrible thing to happen. If that happened, God forbid it happen.
God forbid, yeah. Now, let me ask you, since you share that, what do you think the public's perception is today? Way back when people would say, and even in the media, the reports about, Northwood being, a Mars's hotel and the like. What do you think the people, today think of when they think of Northwood? Do they still see it like that, or do they see it for what it is?
That's people talking foolishness that they don't know.
I understand what you're sharing.
You want me to tell you why?
Yeah, please.
Because they have not experienced being in Northwood. They have not experienced being in Northwood for them to be saying about Northwood is a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Because let me tell you, I've been in Northwood before, remanded, never sentenced, remanded, and remember what I tell you, Northwood is no hotel.
Right. Well, I don't think it is, though.
Yeah, especially this time of year, with all this heat, let me tell you something. That is the closest thing to hell on earth instead of a hotel.
Right.
So don't make nobody put foolishness in your ears and barefoot man and them making all kind of stupid songs like he not got nothing better to do with himself. Don't make those people make you think that Northwood is a hotel, because that is a bunch of lies.
Okay, with that in mind, then, so you think perhaps then that the public now is no longer having that sort of perception. With that in mind, then, a prison, to your perspective, if you were designing a prison, and I'll use the word the amenities and services, and like, what would that prison look like? We're talking of a new prison. If you were designing it, what would that look like? Not
First of all, the foundation. First of all, I'll make sure that the foundation is at least 7 feet in height. The foundation, because right now the Northwood foundation there is level with the ground, and if we was to have a serious storm, the place would be totally flooded. Or if we was to have a tsunami, and remember, Northwood is not too far from the ocean when it comes to the North Sound. If we was to have a tsunami, right now, if a tsunami was to hit Northwood Prison, and the sea surge was, say, 15 feet in height, every one of those prisoners, the majority of those prisoners would get drowned. The only ones that would probably survive would probably be those guys in maximum who are upstairs that would not probably get drowned. But everybody else, is a possibility they would get drowned, Dwayne. So that is another thing that needs to be changed when it comes to the height of the building. And like I said before, all the up-to-date electronics, such as what you said, push one button and it opens all the cells one time. That also. But right now, the Cayman Islands needs a juvenile education prison facility, as what Ms. Ramsey Hale said, because she said it hurt her very much to know she had to be sending these young boys to Northwood Prison in a 12 by 12, and amongst certain individuals, such as adult prisoners, who some of them might have been influencing them and leading them astray in the wrong direction. And I know personally for a fact it was causing post-traumatic stress disorder on some of those young men. And that is a terrible, terrible, terrible something, because when you send an individual to prison, you're sending them to prison to become a better person, not worse.
All right. Listen, I appreciate it. Anything else you want to share with us?
Thank you very much.
No. Hey, thank you, man. Thank you for sharing. And I hope as we listen to what he was saying, we can give some serious consideration to what we're doing for the greater good. Let's pause. Take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk today.
Summer means sunscreen, a lot of it. But this year, you can make the reef-friendly choice in sunscreen. At Healthcare Pharmacy in Governor's Square and Grand Harbor, you can find Ocean Potion and Australian Gold Botanical Sunscreen. Ocean Potion is reef-friendly, oxybenzone-free, antioxidant-enriched, and contains no added parabens. Australian Gold is also phthalate-free, hypoallergenic, and was not tested on animals. So make the right choice in sunscreen this summer with Healthcare Pharmacy, Governor's Square, and Grand Harbor.
King Sports Center Art of Fun Summer Camp is back from July 2nd to August 2nd. Now in its 15th year, the Art of Fun Camp is ideal for kids ages 5 through 10 with activities from football, basketball, dodgeball, squash, rock climbing, arts and craft, dance, singing, and more. Your child can practice physical and social skills while having fun in a safe and secure environment. For more info, call 946-KING. Like King's Sports Center on Facebook, and you can also find them on Instagram or call 946-5464. King Sports Center, providing you with all your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs. Register before May 31st and save 10% on camp registration.
RC Fusion, featuring Billboard's pop hit songs and more from the 70s to the 90s.
RC Fusion.
Weekdays from 10 a.m. till 12.
RC Fusion.
Brought to you by Nathan General Maintenance and Construction. You break it, they fix it. Call the General for a free quote. 917-7586.
RC Fusion.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. It is Talk Day. 949-8037. Or toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. You want to share your thoughts on our WhatsApp, 925-3261. Yeah, listen, sometimes you call and you don't find that it's Miss Susan who answers. Well, those thankfully are few and far between. But today, she's on the other end of the line. So give her a call and just say hello. And then you get to talk today. And then you can tell us what it is on your mind. The last caller, his points specifically about the prison. Now, a couple of quick comments to share. One fellow texted his sentiments. He said, yep, we need to have a very safe, modern prison system, one that ensures the people who are there are able to safely serve their sentences. Perhaps the program allows for a sense of rehabilitation and incarceration, not just to take that person out of society, but to hopefully serve as a deterrent. And a quick exchange back and forth as he was sharing his sentiments. He said, but why are we going to, always look at following other places, whether or not we privatize the prison or whether or not we build a new prison? Why can't we look at actually getting rid of the prison in itself? Today's technology, he said, could quickly allow us to use electronic ways to monitor others' movements and limit their comings and goings. Could we not restrict them to a certain geographic area? Reduce the physical cost of building a new prison, of having to staff and maintain the prison. Not just that we won't punish those who offend, but could we not do otherwise? Well, let's go to our phones. Hey, welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Hi, good afternoon.
Afternoon. How are you today?
Oh, not too bad, Dwayne. I just wanted to actually make a comment with you about. I heard about with the visas that for the passports.
Right.
Now, I just wanted to find out if the Cayman Island government actually had ever thought about saying is that I know in the past they say, well, you're trying to make as much money stay here in the island, but one of the most things right here, I know we have had the consulate here before that that we could have had visas done. Now, I just want to find out is, do you know it's almost $1,000? Like if you had to go to Jamaica, find a hotel, Cayman Airways, and actually have somebody to eat to actually get a visa.
The lady who called said, $1,200, but I know it's from what people have shared that it is, as you said, $1,000 or more. It is expensive.
Well, I thought that it would have been great actually if I don't think it would cost that or even half that if we had a consulate here, even if it was like, once every 3 months but I can see even a lot of people even can't even make it to Jamaica or anywhere else to try to see about getting that Cayman visa, in their passports.
Yeah, the time alone, just get away from work to reschedule, to even coordinate your life. I mean, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you have some other job that makes it challenging to get the time off, as you shared. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's something that our government is looking at, not just the elected government, but if we, presumably a favoured son of the UK, we may be looked at favourably. Who knows, huh?
Well, I'll tell you what, I hope it don't be too long after you see another set come in and then it be asked to them again about this same thing to come back up again, It's
I hear you, man. I hear you. All right. Anything else you want to share?
No, that I just saying is with that because even if you have like three of your siblings that has Cayman passports that need to be renewed, well, you have to look to see where part you can go with them, and it's a more or less adequate time that they'll be off, and then you got to take your vacation actually to go and do all of that. So, but if you have somebody here, I can't, that would be a walk in the park.
It would show a respectful approach to the people. I think to me that's the one thing that is just lacking in many things that we do here. We don't seem to have any respect for ourselves or for each other, and in this era, you would think that it would be able to accommodate that. Not just because we had it before, but you should be able to. But let's see. We'll ask. We'll go back and we'll ask the requisite ministry here. Hopefully, we'll find the right one and ask the question.
Yeah, well, I just hope that they weigh it out and say, well, which one is the best savings for the individual that's trying to get a visa.
Exactly. Well, let's see what they say. All right.
All right.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you very much. Good. Enjoy the afternoon. Couple of more calls. Hey, thank you for calling. As we go to our phones, 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Very thankful and blessed. Well, how about yourself?
I am seeing. Dwayne, I'm calling because I couldn't help but hear one of your callers alluding to the fact that there's a certain amount of abuse that takes place. I think it was specific to the Bonaventure House.
He said physical and mental. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me tell you, in any establishment setting like that, you're going to find there will be the tendency for that to happen. But let me tell you, Dwayne, on the other hand, my company has done a substantial amount of work at the Bonaventure Boys Home. And trust me when I tell you, as a parent and as someone who has worked in law enforcement before, as to how the caregivers down there do it, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I have witnessed those young boys telling the caregivers, male, female, it doesn't matter, some things that me as a big man would never dream of telling an enemy on the street. Not that I have any, but just for the lack of a better word.
Right, I follow you. Mm-hmm.
Some of those children is completely out of order. As I tell you, you got to commend some of these caregivers because some of the things I hear, I witnessed them. This was some time ago. I witnessed them with these caregivers. Trust me, the restraint. I take my hat off.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to tell you now that when I leave, I can't swear for what is not happening, for what don't happen in my presence, But I can swear about what happened in my presence, right? And I tell you what, it not an easy thing. But what needs to happen in Cayman is more focus needs to be put in rehabilitation. We're talking about prisons, but if we rehabilitate persons, it will be a lot more beneficial to us.
Right.
Prison is not always the answer. I think you just look at what Ms. Ramsey Hill done with regards to the drug court.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of those things makes a difference and has made a difference. So we got to start spending more time, and then there must be laws that put in place for irresponsible parenting. Those that did not take care of the children, right? Or laws enforced, I should say. Laws need to be enforced against those individuals because it's them who has got our system, our juveniles holding facilities filled and our prisons filled. It's them who has caused it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thought process, and as I said, I know as a matter of fact that they can say that there will be abuse. I can't stop and argue nobody about abuse in any prison or any holding facility because not everybody has the same temperament as the other.
Right,
I can't
right.
argue to that.
No.
I can tell you the things I've heard those little boys tell those big grown people. Oh, I can tell you what, if it had been my day growing up, they would have lost every teeth they had in their head. I don't care. Them old people would have beat them to a frazzle.
But as I listen to you, I think that what we're taking on board is that this is what I'm hearing. We spend money on building a prison, but why are we doing anything not just to rehabilitate, but maybe the early intervention and the preventative measures?
Right.
And there'll be a need in a society for prisons and other facilities, but what are we doing to look at all of our people and understanding that there's an element that is at greater risk, but they all face some element of going astray if we're not careful, right? Any final thoughts, sir? All right. Thanks very much for sharing. Let's see if we can take one final call. All right, let's see. Good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon, man. I think I can recognize it, but I must share. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I'm able to hear you. You hear me now?
Very faintly. Let's try it, but I can barely hear you, sir. I do not mean to be disrespectful in saying that, but it's difficult. All right.
Dwayne, we're waiting to see if the governor of this country and the commissioner of police of this country gonna charge the father and mother who expose a child under age 15 years old daughter, which she passed away and she went to hospital for drinking in a party which held in people's house. I want to know if this governor and this commissioner of police will do their job and order the police to arrest those father and mother for exposing over 30 children, for exposing children for alcohol, and 2 children being one vowing and dropping the ground, and one she faint in the ground for 2 hours. Her parents don't know, and then the ambulance have to come, and the police have to get involved because there is children was in the house exposed to alcohol by parents who are careless.
Right. If I ask of you then, how widespread this issue of underage drinking, and not just drinking, but drinking to what seems to be excess. How widespread do you think that is in this country?
See, Dwayne, yesterday I see images of one party playing, unfortunately, no disrespect to any nationality, playing Jamaican music, and there is underage girl. The way how she was dancing, and underage children in that party. It's published. I'm telling the commissioner of police, it's published in Cayman Marl Road. You need to go and look.
Right, but that's what I'm asking you. How widespread do you think this whole issue is? Is it, as widespread as some of us believe? It happens every day, almost every day, all day long, all week? Or do you think it's isolated? I mean, your view.
It's too much. It is too much in this country. There's children underage having sex, walking with people older than them, too much years, and the families are careless, They don't look where is their children.
Right.
It's
So with
too much
that
in
then,
this
right,
country.
if I can ask you, if we have a culture that promotes or accepts or somehow is accommodating with respect to underage drinking, if we have a society that says, these sexual relations between people of one age and then a much older age, what does that say about our society and how are we going to address that issue?
You see, I give you an example, Dwayne. We need a solution that the police, the commissioner of police need to start arrest those people and charge them, whoever the parents are. It's ridiculous in this country what's going on. Underage children drinking alcohol and you see in North Side the other day they everywhere is liquor place. In East End the same, in Georgetown the same, in West Bay the same. It's opening more liquor stores. It's a small country like this. All of these, even in Sunday, the most holy day, and they claim the Christian country, and they let the gas stations sell alcohol.
I hear you, man. And that is, I think, what the issue is, has our society gotten to a point where we have lost touch with, what its norms and values are. Hey, maybe this is a discussion for another day. Thank you, sir, for bringing that matter, to the public. Again, let's see where it takes us. All right, come back tomorrow for the buzz. All right, Ms. Susan, it's Tuesday. And then we have talk today right after the midday news and midday meditation. Got a couple of things in store, including a discussion towards the end in relation to World Hepatitis Day. When we talk earlier to our friends from SIFA, there's a football tournament coming up in between. Got something on the table as well as an opportunity to share with our listeners a little raffle draw. So you bought a ticket? Well, let's see if we can do it live here. Until then, be blessed.
Of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
Shining down from above.
We love our listeners. Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.